Did you enjoy that footage from Longwood Gardens? I certainly enjoyed my trip there this week with my sister. If you stay around at the end, I have more footage for you too. Okay, here I am in front of a rose bush. This is not in my yard. This is at a senior center around the corner from me. I have permission to do this. So what I want to do first is just take a look at the rose bush. Actually, it's a good idea to take a picture of it now so you can get a before and after shot of it, of any project you do, by the way. Okay, so you want to look at your shrub and think about it. How did it perform last year? Did it do really well? That's great. Then you want to keep on doing what you're doing. If it did not perform well, maybe you didn't get enough flowers, or the leaves were turning yellow, you may have seen mildew on it, or a fungal infection, or too many aphids, beetles. What you want to do is think, what can I do differently this year? So first of all, you might want to consider that maybe your rose is not in the right place. Now it's too late to take it out, so you can add amendments to it, which are on the shelves of nurseries and big department box stores. But next time you go to plant a rose bush, consider the fact that it needs at least 5 hours of sunlight a day. It needs a loamy soil, which is a balanced combination of sand, silt, and clay. So right there, you know, if you have a highly concentrated amount of clay in your soil, then that's not the right place for a rose bush. You might have a vision of it and think, oh, I just want all those pretty pink flowers right there in front of my house. Well, hold off on it at least until you can prepare your soil for it. So that's the whole concept of right plant, right place. And I had to mention that before we started. It applies to every plant, every tree, every shrub, every perennial in your yard. Okay, one more thing about roses before I get started. Keep in mind that they don't like wet feet. They don't like to sit in wet soil. Of course, we have our rainy periods of the season. I'm not talking about that, but generally, they don't like to sit in puddles. They need to be raised up a little bit and have good drainage underneath. If you don't have that in your soil, you could get around that by planting a raised bed, putting some extra soil in there, and then your rose will do well. Okay, let's get started. I'm looking at this rose bush. The whole idea of pruning is to cut back to create new wood for new growth. Now, I see lots of little leaves already, and I might think to myself, oh, it's going to flower soon. Well, it could, but that won't be the best start for this rose bush. What you want to do is look at it and think to yourself, you want a vase shape, a shape that spreads out to the sides. If you have too much in the middle, you don't get enough air circulation or sunlight. So we're going to create a healthy, rejuvenating start for this rose bush. I'm going to start by just cutting branches back so that I can see the bare bones that I'm working with. I don't have to be perfect right now. Bring it back. Okay, now I can basically see the form or the structure of this shrub. As with other deciduous shrubs, I want to look for dead, diseased, or weak, or damaged branches and get rid of them first. So down in here I see an old branch that is just not the right color. I'm going to cut that off, and that clears up the middle as well. I see a branch down here, or a cane we call them in rose bushes, that's really dark and dead. Let's get rid of that. This one is coming out to the side, crossing another one. So which one should I take out? This one or this one? I think I'll take this one here, the whole thing with the lateral branches too. All the way down to the bottom. Again, there's no perfect way to do it. Roses want to grow, so they'll keep putting out new growth. So don't be nervous about it. All right, now I basically have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 branches or canes left. I'm going to take out these little ones that especially look dead. Here's another little tiny one. If they're weak and spindly at this point, they're not going to produce much. Okay, this cane here is branching off. I think I will cut off this part because it's pointing inward a little bit. We want branches that point out. Let's take that off. Okay. And this one I'll leave. We'll give this one a chance to keep growing. Now, let's take this down a little bit. All right. So I have about 5 main canes growing. Get rid of these old ones. Clear the area. Now when I clean up, I'm going to dispose of any of these rose leaves from the ground and throw them out because roses are known to have fungal infections. So you just never know if any of these leaves had them from last year. So get rid of them because they will drain right into the soil and keep that fungus going this year. Okay, now let's work on this cane right here. This is interesting here, this bubbly part. Doesn't look too good, so I'm going to cut right below that, all the way down here. Now what I'm doing is looking for a new bud or a new node. On a rose cane, it's called a bud eye. I don't see any up here that are pointing outwards, away from the center, so I'm going to cut right here at a 45-degree angle, a nice crisp cut. It looks nice and green and white inside there. Let me just see what's going on in here. Ah, I think we had some cane borers. Okay, now cane borers are actually beneficial wasps or bees that burrow into the center of the rose canes and other plants, and they nest there for the winter. So it's good we got rid of this because those rose borers can actually be the death of the whole shrub. Okay, let me see this one here. This cane is a little thicker. I'm going to use my loppers. I'm looking for a bud eye that points outward. There's one here. I don't know if you can see it too clearly, but it's raised a little bit and you can see a little eye starting. From that, we're going to get some new growth. So we're going to cut right above that at a 45-degree angle. Remember, we want the branch. We want the water to drain right off the branch or cane. You don't want any loose, raggedy edges like that either. I'll come back with my little clippers at the end and just clean that up a little. Okay, let's see if this cane has any bud eyes pointing outward. Well, here's one up here. I can see it's going to put one out, so I'm going to cut right above there. You don't have to cut way down low or way down high. If you can find a bud eye, that's the important thing. So I'm going to cut right above that, 45-degree angle. These loppers are not meant for these thinner canes. Okay. All right. This little one here, can you see that? Here's a little bud eye. This is putting out a brand new branch, okay, or cane. As the cane grows, the bud eyes will whirl around. They don't all stay on one side. I have one here, I have one on this side, and then there should be another one here. There actually was, and that's where this new stem came from. So I want to look for the one that will put out growth outside the plant. And, let's see if there's one way down there. I don't see one down there. I don't want to use this one. I'm going to use this one. It kind of points in this direction here. We'll go with that one for now. Okay. This this chunky old cane. It's hard to see some bud eyes coming out in this direction. Okay, there's one back here. You can't see it, but it's going to shoot out in that direction, and that would be awesome for us to create new growth going there. Now with the thicker canes, you can give it a little more space above the bud eye. When the stems are thinner, you can go down to about 1/4 inch above. Now the cut that you make above a bud eye basically disintegrates. What will grow is the bud. It's important to understand that. Okay, this growth you can see is going towards the center of the plant. We want to get rid of that and look for the next bud. I see one that looks like it's about to form right here. So I'll cut right above there. Okay. So there you have it, a pruned rose bush. I could take it down even more if I wanted, but I think this is good for now. One thing to notice down here is the crown of the rose bush, otherwise called the bud union. These should actually be planted underground, so that encourages stems to grow outward from it. If it's above ground a little, that's fine. As you can see, it's growing. You know, when I was at Longwood the other day, I noticed they had a whole row of rose bushes that were just pruned, and when I looked at them closely, none of them were done perfectly. There were a few cuts that were in the wrong spots. There were a few crossing branches. But you know what? In 6 weeks from now, they're all going to look like beautiful rose bushes, and nobody will sit there and analyze every little cut that you made. So here's a few more dead branches. They're breaking right off. Never want to cut into that bud union down there. Never puncture it. Okay, the last thing we're doing today is creating a ditch, basically, around the shrub. Sorry, my mic cut out. Imagine a full shrub dripping water from the edges. That's the drip line, and that's where fertilizer and water seeps down into the roots. Down around it. That's where you want to apply any fertilizers or to catch water. If it's a dry summer, this is one thing you can do to catch the water and make sure it goes down into the roots. Now here's a question you need to ask yourself. Do I need fertilizers or not? Now, there are a lot of organic fertilizers on the market. Here's one right now. It definitely is better to go with organic. These are meant for your bushes to create beautiful flowers through the season, basically, and to just give them the extra boost that they need. This is bone meal. This is made from bones of animals. This promotes flower growth as well. But you know what? I don't use these unless I see there's a problem. But I like to spread my own black gold. It helps the whole structure of the soil, and black gold is... Sorry, mic problems again. I was explaining the wonderful physical, chemical, and biological benefits of compost, something you can make from your own kitchen scraps and yard cuttings for free. It improves and balances your soil structure, which helps plant roots take in its required nutrients from the soil. If your plants are placed in the right spots and fed some compost once in a while, they are destined for success. You know, sometimes people just automatically every year go out and spread lime on their lawns just because they do it every year. But you know what? Have those people had a soil test? Have you had a soil test? That's one really important thing to do. If you haven't done it yet, this is the time of year right now. Here we go again. In this part here, I was talking about how getting a soil test gives you so much information about your soil. Mainly, you'll get your pH level, the acid and alkalinity of your soil. That will tell you which plants will do their best in your yard. You'll learn about the other nutrients and elements that your soil needs to grow what you prefer growing in your yard. County Extension Office. Most agricultural colleges in Pennsylvania, at least, have extension offices. They have the kits available. You bring one home, you collect some soil samples, you send them off, you wait about a week, maybe 2, for the results, and then you know what you have and what you can work with. Before you go spending all your money on all those fancy plants, it's really a great idea. So there you have it. Oh, a very important detail. You saw them, but I didn't mention them. you need some good thick gloves. Take it from me, I've punctured my fingers quite a few times, and those thorns stick in your skin and it will hurt for a month after the puncture wound. So these gloves have leather tips. You can also get them with rubberized tips. It's good when they come up your wrist this way. They're not that expensive. These were $11 from Target. So they're definitely worth the investment. Also, when you do it, even if it's hot out, make sure you wear long sleeves and long pants. And some people even wear some sunglasses to protect their eyes. Hope you learned a few things. I'll see you next time. You'll want to look around your property to see if you have any plants that are heaving. This shrub I planted in the fall. So, it's always better to plant too high than too low. So I planted a little high. And now I see that it heaved a little over the winter. Popped up out of the frozen ground. So I'm adding some soil and compost around it. And some mulch. Simple. Look around your property and see if you have any heaving plants. The weeds are being really feisty this time of year, so I'm pulling out as many as I can, trying to get ahead of the game. Now, one thing I like to think of is that there's a whole world going on under the soil here. There's all kinds of microorganisms and insects living. There's seeds under there, many of them weed seeds that are just waiting for a chance to erupt. So when we remove a weed, we feel where we can feel the base of it and just kind of gently pull up around that area. We don't want to get real rough. Sometimes we can just pluck them up. But if you have a larger one and you can feel where the base of it is, just get right under there. You're getting most of the roots, which helps solve the problem early on. And then I want to show you one more thing. Check this out. I started a brand new compost pile in a spot where my neighbors can't see it. I can't really see it when I look out the window. It's back in the the woods line of our property. Look, here's some flowers for my daughter and myself that just weren't cutting it. And whenever we start a brand new compost pile, we take some older compost, which I happen to have here a few years ago, so it's nice and rich right here. The other name for it is black gold. Look how dark it is. So if we activate this new pile with a little bit of old compost, it will get it started. I'll come back in about 2 weeks to show you when I toss it, and when I've added more ingredients to it, it'll start right away with the process of decomposing. So that's it for today. Oh, there is one thing I need to mention. If you watched my video last week, at the end I was showing you how I was cleaning up my yard. I was cutting back some aster and some catmint just to be ahead of the game and clean up the yard. Well, my mother, my very astute mother, sent me a text with this little article that she saw saying that if you remove your old perennials and branches too early, you could be removing the nest of pollinators, beneficial insects that are nesting there. So I did some research on it and I realized, oh my gosh, I have been damaging my little ecosystem here by trying to clean up my yard a little too early. So I stopped at that point, and I hope that I caught you in time before you got out to your yards to clear out some of your old perennials, especially the native ones. Okay, so thank you for watching. See you next time.
remember years ago it was suffering terribly from the Dutch elm disease, and you know, there were thoughts that it would die, and it's still standing beautifully here. It has some damage, but it's still here. And they've taken cuttings from it and propagated them and have planted them on the grounds. Oh, I'm so excited to see it.